Jai Shri Radhe, Sab Vaishnav ko Jai Shri Krishna, Shri Vallabha ki Jai Ho. So today is day 35 in the readings of the 254 Vaishnava disciples of Sri Gosaiji. We are in Varta number 14, the story of Ganesh Vyas, and we are at part 2 of his story. Sri Gosaiji would often be angry with Ganesh Vyas, but he never let it bother him. He was a great Vaishnava. The more Sri Gosaiji was angry with him, the more pleased he became. He thought to himself, I hope that Sri Gosaiji will always be angry with me. He is only angry because he regards me as his close servant. Otherwise, whom would he have to be angry with? Bhav Prakash, this teaches you that you should only be angry with those whom you know to be your own. Part 2 continued. Ganesh Vyas thus felt that Sri Gosaiji's anger was one of his great qualities. After some more time, Ganesh Vyas left his body. One Vaishnava came to know this and went to relay the news to Sri Gosaiji. When he heard these words, that Ganesh Vyas had left his body, his hair stood on end. Seeing this horripilation of Sri Gosaiji, one Vaishnava asked, "O Maharaj, you always used to be angry with Ganesh Vyas. So now, hearing this news, why are you getting goosebumps?" Sri Gosaiji replied, "It would be impossible to find another sevak like Ganesh Vyas. There is none like him, nor will there ever be. I was angry with him, but he always regarded that as a good lesson. He never felt bad about it. He was very, very close to me." Hearing these words of Sri Gosaiji, the Vaishnava kept silent. Thus concludes Varta 14, the story of Ganesh Vyas, who was a recipient of Sri Gosaiji's great grace and an accomplished Vaishnava, although his story really has no end. Varta 15, the story of Haridas Kavas, a Sanariya Brahmin from Mathura, who used to faint when he heard the Srimad Bhagavatam. He is a devotee with a Rajasi disposition. In the eternal Leela, his name is Sarala, who has a very innocent personality. She manifests from Ratikala and is thus a form of her divine loving sentiment. This Haridas was born in Mathura to a family of Sanariya Brahmins. From birth he was an innocent being. He had no involvement in any worldly wranglings. His parents were very upset about this, wondering how they would ever be able to get him married off. They were always worrying. When he was 8, they sent him to a learned man to study. He did study a bit. The smallpox hit Mathura. Both his parents died. He wondered what he should do now. He was perplexed. He went to Vishram Ghat and sat on the banks of the Sri Mataji river, and he cried bitterly. At that very time, Sri Gosaiji was performing his daily prayers. He caught sight of Haridas and then sent his personal servant to go up to Haridas and call him to come over to where he was. Haridas came there. Sri Gosaiji asked him, "Oh Haridas, why are you crying?" Haridas replied, "O Maharaj, I have no one in this world. I am also ignorant, so I come to take shelter in you. Please keep me close to yourself. I am poor and I am an orphan." Sri Gosaiji instructed him not to worry, that he should go and have a bath in the Sri Mataji river, after which he could make him his disciple and keep him close. Haridas was pleased to take a bath, and then Sri Gosaiji initiated him with the Lord's name and Brahma Sambandh. He then instructed him to work as his personal servant, and Haridas did exactly that. Part 1. Haridas began to serve as Sri Gosaiji's personal servant, Kawas. One day Haridas asked him, "O Maharaj, I would love to hear you read the Srimad Bhagavatam." Sri Gosaiji instructed him to go instead to Ujjain, where Krishna Bhatt would read the Srimad Bhagavatam to him. He said that he would only be able to find a few free hours to read the Srimad Bhagavatam, but not enough to do a complete reading. He also said that if someone was only able to find 3 hours to read the Srimad Bhagavatam, then it would take a whole 5 years to complete it. Therefore, he again told Haridas to go to Krishna Bhatt in Ujjain. He will explain everything to you very nicely. Sri Gosaiji said. Sri Gosaiji gave Haridas a letter for Krishna Bhatt from himself. Haridas took his leave and set off for Ujjain. He reached there after a few days. Haridas went to meet Krishna Bhatt and gave him the letter from Sri Gosaiji. He was very happy to receive it and put it on his head out of respect. Then he read it and felt great joy. Haridas explained, "I requested Sri Gosaiji to read the Srimad Bhagavatam for me, but he told me to come to Ujjain where you would read it to me. So here I am. Therefore, please read the Srimad Bhagavatam for me." Krishna Bhatt said that the following day was auspicious and that they would start then. The next day, Krishna Bhatt read began to read the Brahmar Gita, or Ode to a Black Bee. He started to tell the story, but Haridas fainted. He stayed unconscious for 3 hours. He came round after being given some herbs. Krishna Bhatt closed the book. Then Haridas exclaimed, "Oh, Bhattji, please continue with the story." Krishna Bhatt said, "But what will I tell Sri Gosaiji? Because if I start the next reading, you will not regain consciousness." Bhav Prakash. Because Haridas was still not developed spiritually, therefore he was not able to grasp nor tolerate the subject matter. Part 1 continued. Then Haridas took leave of Krishna Bhattji and returned to Sri Gosaiji in Gokul. He bowed to him and told him what had happened. Sri Gosaiji kept quiet. Haridas began to serve Sri Gosaiji as he had before. Part 2. Once, one Vaishnava placed a donation of 1 rupee before Sri Gosaiji. The coin was in front of Sri Gosaiji's couch. Sri Gosaiji had gone inside to partake of prasad. When he re-emerged, he asked Haridas, "Where is the coin that was here before?" Haridas replied that he had placed it in the shelf in the wall. Sri Gosaiji instructed him, "From today onwards, leave any money you see alone. Do not pick it up." Haridas took this teaching to heart. Part 3. Another time when Sri Gosaiji was taking his meal, he asked Haridas to hang his shawl up to dry. Whilst Haridas was adjusting the couch, a Brahmini came there and began to speak with Haridas. He got involved in the conversation and forgot to hang up the shawl. The two of them were still talking when Sri Gosaiji returned. He saw that they were chatting away and stood still. When the Brahmini finally got up and left, Sri Gosaiji entered the Baitak. He asked Haridas, "Are you not going to dry the shawl today?" Haridas replied that he had been talking and forgotten his task. Sri Gosaiji then forbade him to talk to anyone's wife like that, and from that day on, Haridas followed this teaching. Thus concludes the story of Haridas Kavas, who was graced to receive such teachings. He was the recipient of great grace, and in truth there is no end to his story. So we conclude today's reading here, the end of part Varta 15, day 35. Story of Haridas Kavas, and resuming tomorrow with Varta 16, Madhusudan Das. Jai Shri Krishna, Shri Vallabhadish ki jai, Shri Gosaiji ki jai, Jai Jai Shri Radhe.